I will be more aggressive. I'll take more chances because I know I can do it. And the next exciting thing is to see, can I push it more?
Welcome back to Flagstaff Bound, a special Cocodona 250 series brought to you by Distance to Empty podcast and Aravaipa Running. I am Kevin Goldberg, host of the Distance to Empty podcast, where we dive deep into the world of 200 plus mile races, just like Cocodona 250. As always, I'm joined by everyone's favorite co-host, Peter Noyes. Today's guest, we're flipping the mic on him. Usually he's the one behind it asking the questions. He is the host of the incredibly popular single track podcast. Finn Melanson is back for his second Cocodona 250 after a stellar 7th place debut last year. And this year it seems like you're going all in, Finn, on 200s. I noticed on Ultra Sign Up, there's a few more on there that we can talk about. Finn, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Kevin.
So, you've spent the past several years really covering this sport in depth, talking to some of the best runners in the sport. What pulled yourself personally into this 200-mile arena, and why Cocodona 250 to start?
I think I'm attracted to anything that's related to the frontier, and anywhere there's a ton of uncertainty and people are playing this guessing game, trying to figure out exactly what works at a particular event. I think for a long time in the sport, 100-milers were that source of curiosity. And I think you're seeing it now. It's becoming more and more of a science equation. Joe McConaughey has a famous quote that 200s are basically voodoo magic in terms of how you get it right. And I love operating in that space where we're kind of pioneers and on the frontier trying to figure this thing out. I don't think we're anywhere close to it. I do think that last year at Cocodona was one of those watershed moments where people like Jeff Browning and Arlen Glick and Joe and Versteeg and Harry, they opened the lid on what's possible, but there's still so much more to figure out. And I love being a part of it.
Well, for yourself last year at Cocodona, it seemed like your experiment was a success. Things seemed to really click for you. So what was it that clicked, or what surprised you about the race the most in your performance?
Maybe it's the same for you guys, but whenever I come into a race really opening up myself to just being humbled, things end up tending to go right. I had no expectations going in. My only goals were to make it to the finish line and to just have that kind of relentless forward progress mindset. And a lot of things, shit did hit the fan at various points. I mean, at Crown King, I actually rewatched that part of the live stream, and apparently I looked terrible, and people thought that I probably was about to drop out. And I got to Camp Kippa and spent an hour there throwing up. There was a section where actually I was with Kevin, and Kevin helped me from, I think it was going off course. There was just a lot of things that went wrong, but I just had the mindset that I wanted to finish. And I do still think we're in this era of 200s where maybe in the back half of the top 10, you can, at competitive ones like Cocodona, you can still make a ton of mistakes and have a quote unquote decent day. I don't think coming into this year's event, I can have that same type of day and expect similar results. I have to be a lot more flawless in my execution if I want to get a 5th, 6th, 7th place.
So, we mentioned at the top of the episode that it seems like you're bordering on full obsession like we are with these 200s. I see that you're signed up for, I think it was Moab 240 and the new Mammoth 200. Is this headfirst dive into this distance, is it just that? Is it the pushing the frontier of it, figuring it out, the puzzle of it? Or is there just something else that has drawn you to it? Why dive in so heavily? If you look at your personal race history, it's almost like this is a bit of a departure from the way you've raced in the past, it seems.
It's kind of it's actually going back to my roots in a lot of ways, because before I ever got into trail running, my first experience in the outdoors was through hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I just love, to me, there's nothing more enticing than just putting on a 30 to 40 liter pack and, plodding along at 3 to 4 miles per hour. That is my ideal day in terms of exercise. In terms of the schedule that I have, I think I've, without even having gotten to the start line of all those, I think I've definitely bitten off more than I can chew. And I highly doubt when the dust has settled that I will have done all of those. I'll probably have to make a decision between Mammoth and Moab, currently leaning Mammoth. But I could also see a world where after Cocodona, I'm totally shredded. And then with all of our media and event stuff with single track through the summer, I have no chance to really honor the races by training properly. And there could be a world where it's I'm just one and done with Cocodona this year. But I know you guys have done Moab, for example, and Tahoe and these other ones. And I think it is a priority for me over the next few years to click those off and to see the world outside Cocodona, because I fell in love with Cocodona, and that'll always be a special one for me. But yeah, like this whole scene is so cool. Listening to the Distance to Empty pod, getting further inspired. I do have a mission. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I really like after Cocodona last year, my legs were actually kind of fine, but I felt like I almost had like the feeling of what I suspect dementia would feel like, where my brain was just like in tatters for kind of months after. Like it felt like July or August rolled around, and I finally felt mentally sharp again. So I do totally respect how taxing this can be in unique ways.
Yeah, the most I've done in a year is 2, and I don't understand how people are pushing the limits of 4. If
what
not
Harry
5.
did was insane.
Yeah, I don't get it. So as a host of the Single Track podcast, you've gotten to interview many of the top athletes in the sport. So curious, like, how has your approach to racing and training evolved? After hearing the perspectives of all these people.
I mean, one of the people that I'm studying really closely right now is John Kelly. He's done a lot around the spine and Tour de Géants, and just having seen him operate at Barkley, which I would consider in this multi-day scene over so many years with a lot of success. Like, one of the things that I'm taking into Cocodona this year is the mindset that sleep is actually elective. Given how fast this race is getting, and if you want to stay competitive, at Barkley, the people that are finishing year over year are, with few exceptions, are not sleeping at all. Like, they are going all 60 hours without sleeping. And I do think if I want to replicate any sort of competitive result at this year's race, and I know it's variable for everybody, but I think I might make the decision not to sleep this year. Because in Goldberg, I know you didn't really sleep that much either last year. I maybe slept 35 minutes, and I don't think that those 35 minutes really helped me that much. If anything, it made me want to like quit the race because I just got too comfortable. So I think the big thing that I'm going to probably roll the dice on this year is like not sleeping.
I find that really interesting because obviously sleep is a huge topic in this distance. It's talked about constantly. Every question seems to always come back to sleep, and I have so much trouble sleeping. It's such a weakness of mine, like falling asleep and staying asleep, and then, like you said, getting up and getting started again after sleep is just such a tricky thing. So I'll be really curious to see how that experiment goes for you. I've tried to push the limits of it. I mean, I got to Walnut Canyon on 20 minutes last year.
Wow.
And then ended up sleeping there because I just was pretty broken. But yeah, that's I mean, if you can do it in that 60, low 60, then yeah, you might have something there. And I think that's really cool. My question was going to be like, you had that 7th place finish, and you mentioned like being able to sort of like make mistakes and hike a lot your way into the top 10 might be a thing of the past in this race.
Yeah.
So my big question was going to be, what is the thing you're taking from last year's Cocodona that you're going to do differently this year? Is it the sleep experiment?
Well, yeah. And I here's the thing. It's this year is super intimidating to me because I really felt like I got the most out of myself last year. Like, I was really proud of the race, and I felt like I was pushing the bounds of my physical limits. I've never considered myself to be an elite runner. I feel like I'm like kind of like a front of the middle of the packer. And I think I benefit in 200s with it still being like a new scene where I can maybe pick off people by being more conservative. That's obviously, you can't do that anymore in hundreds or 50 miles or 50 Ks. And to think that like, if I want to be competitive this year, I have to somehow shave 8 to 10 hours off my time. It just is super daunting. So that's why I'm factoring in the sleep piece. And then also in training, I have just been doing so much more running. Like in the lead up last year, the only times I was really running and training was I did a couple like test races in the lead up just to get a little bit of turnover, but mostly I was going out and just slogging these like 3 to 4 mile per hour hikes in the Salt Lake foothills. And like, it's been totally different this time around. I'm like almost training for a marathon. I've been going to my local park and doing like mile repeats and marathon workouts and working on like aerobic threshold and VO2. Like, I'm doing a totally different thing. So I don't know if that's actually going to translate, but I think because I got the finish last year, I'm less concerned about finishing this year, and I will be more aggressive. I'll take more chances because like I know I can do it, and the next exciting thing is to see, can I push it more? And if I do really like have a terrible day in the process, it's worth it because at least I tried.
Yeah, that's a change I'm making for myself as well this year, is doing a lot more marathon-esque training, more speed work, just more road running, working on running economy. So I'll tell you how that plays out.
Oh yeah, we'll compare notes.
So in addition to you mentioned John Kelly and his sleep or lack thereof, are there any other lessons that you've taken from some of these athletes that you've learned over the years?
I mean, watching the Chase film, which I know you guys watched as well, it's really cool to see the approach that Arlen took last year. Like, I love how he went to the course 6 weeks in advance and he would do these long runs, but he would also stage a bike at the end of his run, and then he would bike back to his car. And I've seen like Max Joliffe do this too. Like, he's incorporating this like whole multi-sport approach and just getting more time on feet or just like general like aerobic exercise in through less musculoskeletal demanding activities like the biking. Maybe you're in the weight room more. And so I haven't necessarily put all these things to practice, but my wife and I just got a Zwift bike. So I think in the last month before Cocodona, I'm going to hop on that quite a bit to supplement volume. Cause I'm somebody that I think I pretty much hit my limit around like 10 to 12 hours time on feet a week. I can do like 60 to 70 miles. I can do like one midweek workout, a long run. And then I start to feel like I'm getting in this like realm of, I don't know if I'm actually absorbing this training or if I'm just getting hurt. And so to have something like the bike in there or the weight room, swimming, I think all those things count. I also just had my first kid. So like my wife and I will go on these walks and I'll put the baby in the front carrier and we'll walk 3 miles and that'll be an extra 30 pounds on me. And like, that's training, you know? So I think the more I can just get like creative time on feet, the better.
I think it's really helpful for this distance, all those things you mentioned. I think sometimes people put too much stock in those sort of extracurricular things for shorter distances.
Yep.
But I think the farther you go, and especially the 200 plus distance, it really does all count and all, bolster that training. So I think that's really cool. You mentioned the Chase and Arlen. I just wanted to say that seeing him run like on screen late in that race, like mile 200 beyond, was like, if I saw that totally out of context, I would have just thought he was out for his, one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. I mean, 100%. Jeff, Harry, they all looked great, but you could tell they were 200 miles into a race. And Arlen looked like he was just like doing his shakeout run.
Well, he at Camp Kippa, he's like, finally, I get to start running.
Yeah.
It
was wild. All right, Finn, if you were hosting this series and you were interviewing yourself, Finn the podcaster from Single Track, what would be the question that you'd ask yourself to close this podcast out?
Why am I doing so many things all at once? Why can't I just make life simple and take on less tasks and just focus on this race or focus on interviewing people or being a race director? Like, I think I'm over leveraged right now, and all of the magic in life happens when I think you're largely just focused on a few select things. So that would be the question. What am I doing? Why isn't like one thing enough?
We won't ask you to answer it.
I'll talk to my therapist later.
All right. So to wrap up here, we've been asking all the guests the same last set of questions. And it's great that you've done Cocodona before. So this first one should be easy. And that is, what section of Cocodona are you most looking forward to?
It's a tie between two. I think that people overlook how beautiful the first 35 miles to Crown King are. It is a tough section, but it's also beautiful. So if you're running the race this year, yes, be intimidated by the logistical challenge, but also soak in the beauty. It is a stunning section. The second one I think is maybe less discussed, but last year I loved the section from Munns Park to Fort Tuttle. I thought that was a really cool, like, you finally get to run again. You're amongst all those pine trees. It's really flowy. I liked being on those like Forest Service roads for long stretches too. Yeah, that was great.
I saw you out on that section. That was when you passed me for the last time.
Yeah.
I think we actually synced up again at Fort Tuttle, and then you left ahead of me. But you were having a great time on that section.
It's beautiful. Yeah,
it is
beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Flip side of that, you were out there. You suffered along the course. What section are you kind of dreading? What did you not enjoy on the course last year that you're a little intimidated by this year?
Well, apparently it got changed up, but leaving Sedona last year, I really struggled on that section from Sedona downtown to like the top of that Kasner climb. that was really difficult for me. Although the one thing I'm super impressed by, in my totally sleep deprived state, I was able to do that river crossing without getting my feet wet.
How?
I was stoked on it. I don't know. My brother, who was pacing me, was like, dude, like you were so out of it the entire time, but then had this moment of extreme lucidity where you somehow found the perfect foot pattern across the river there and didn't get my feet wet. So that was my one crowning achievement. But otherwise, I struggled on that section so bad. And then, yeah, getting to Schneebly Hill, it felt like a walk of shame. I mean, I was walking the downhills and stuff. I did finally sleep at Schneebly. That helped me, actually. So I'm kind of undermining my no sleep argument, but that whole section was tough. And I know the course changed this year. Apparently it's going to get, well, there's some, actually, maybe it's a tougher section. I don't know. There's like this one kind of bit of exposure on that climb out of Sedona, apparently. So we'll see, but that was tough.
Yeah, that's wild. You didn't get wet. I mean, both years I did it, I was like, it's thigh deep water. But so what shoes are you going to be starting the race in?
So I'm going to use the Norda 005s. I love this shoe. It is a quote unquote trail super shoe, but no carbon plate. Your foot is sitting on top of a bed of this TPEE Arnatel brand midsole. I love it. Really durable midsole too. Like I've had it for 350 miles. Doesn't pack out. Love the upper on it as well. I do review shoes through my friend Brett Hornig's Conversational Pace channel. And if I need to get any miles in for that, I might turn to the Hoka Mafate Speed X, which is, it's a big shoe, like high stack, a lot of foam, and it's like a stability shoe, but they're also marketing it as kind of a performance oriented shoe as well. I've put a few miles on it so far, and I think it'd be a good Cocodona shoe. And then I might also throw the latest Craft Nordlight on too, but again, just for training purpose or just for shoe review purposes. But from a performance standpoint, like as often as possible, the Norda.
Nice. All right. We talked a lot about performance, both against the field and within yourself. But what is one outcome from Cocodona 250 this year, not tied to results, not tied to placement, not tied to your time, that would just make you really proud of yourself?
Oh, it's got to just be the finish, honoring the course and honoring Jamil and Aravaipa and you guys by just like, even when the going gets tough, just appreciating the moment and how special this race is and the fact that it's only going to get more popular. So you never know if this is your last go at it. I think this race is going to go the way of UTMB in Western States, where it's like people are like dying to get in and the wait lists get crazy. And we're still in this era where like, yeah, it's crazy to get in, but it's still kind of possible. And so you never know if it's going to be your last. So even if shit hits the fan and I blow a gasket and I'm in over my head, if it takes 125 hours or whatever the cutoff is, I'm going to try to get there.
Nice. Then last question. We got a little help from ChatGPT on this one. We asked it how many steps it's going to take to get from Black Canyon City all the way to Flagstaff. So care to wager a guess?
Well, I know that with the AT, they say it's 5 million steps, and that's 2,200 miles. So if I did like a little bit of mental math, some public math here, I'm going to guess it's about 500,000 to 600,000 steps.
It's been so funny watching people do that public math for this question. And some people nail it, and some people are so far off. You're pretty darn close, Finn.
Okay.
And that I like the AT comparison there. We've been saying 500,000 steps to Flagstaff. Okay. It's 350,000 to 500,000, depending on your stride, how much you're running versus hiking. But yeah, pretty good guess.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, remember, Cocodona 250 will kick off Monday morning, May 5th at 5 a.m. Pacific. You'll be able to watch all the action live on the Mountain Outpost YouTube channel. The team over at Aravaipa Running will be bringing you nonstop race coverage. Follow along on Cocodona 250 social media channels for additional behind-the-scenes content. If you're enjoying this series, Flagstaff Bound, it is brought to you by Peter and myself, who host the Distance to Empty podcast. We cover 200-plus mile races exclusively, so if you're enjoying that, please check us out. We'd really appreciate that. Finn, where can people follow along with your race this year?
Well, first of all, go hit that subscribe button for Distance to Empty. Spotify, Apple, hit subscribe. On Instagram at Run Single Track, and then Single Track Podcast on YouTube and Apple, Spotify.
Awesome. Finn, thanks for joining us. Can't wait to see you again this year.